Hi, thank you for joining us for the second episode of RGBdog Presents, the Volumetric Interviews. I'm Soyun from RGBdog. So Volumetric Interviews is to introduce creatives while building supportive communities with a great use of technology. So here we are with our second guest, hackers and designers. And we are in NDSM in Amsterdam with Juliet and Luz. Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, Soyun. It's nice to be here.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us here. And thank you for inviting us here today. So hackers and designers take an all-hands approach to collaborate across disciplines to promote technological literacy while being inclusive of various levels of expertise across a wide array of fields. From experimental talks, workshops, to tool-making, hackers and designers build a wide, diverse pool of international expertise that spans across multiple disciplines. So before diving in further, let's listen more about our interviewees. So could you introduce a little bit more about yourself, Luz?
Yeah, my name is Luz Bogas, and I joined Hackers and Designers, we just figured out, in 2017 as a participant of the Summer Academy. I kind of kept coming to the events until somebody asked me, hey, you're always coming, maybe you want to just help us, organize. So that's how it started. And I'm an educator, and I work at the Amsterdam University of the Arts, where I teach art at the intersection of technology and science.
Awesome. And then Juliet?
My name is Juliette Lizotte. I'm French. I studied here in the Netherlands at Sandberg Institute, where I graduated in 2016. And that's how I met Anja Groten, who founded or initiated Hackers and Designers back in the days. And in 2017, I was asked to join the collective, and I've been active member since then. And I'm also a video maker and designer. And yeah, I build worlds and look into witchcraft and magic.
Wow, that's interesting. So how many active members are in Hackers and Designers?
There's us, and then Anja, Selby, Pirko, Margarita, Carl, Christine, and André.
And a new member, Pernilla.
And Pernilla. So that's now 10. Yeah.
I got to know Hackers and Designers through 2019. There was a summer academy here, like right in this place. And it was like workshop for 2 weeks with the people from different part of the world, like people from US, people from another part of Europe. And then I had such a good time in Amsterdam. Yeah, joining so many good workshops, and I really like that the workshop leaders are also participants. So we're gonna dive into more about it later. So I understand Hackers and Designers as the decentralized organization to support like exchange of information, learning, and collaboration across the wide range of software and hardware developers and designers, artists and researchers, which you have fostered over 9 years now. Why is the name Hackers and Designers?
In 2013, the first Hackers and Designers meetup happened. That was initiated by Anja, Selby, and James, who used to be a member. James used to be a member of Hackers and Designers. And the idea of the first meetup was to actually bridge the world of hackers and the world of designers by simply inviting some hackers that James knew and some designers and artists that Selby and Anja knew. And that was how it happened as this informal meetup called Hackers and Designers. It was growing into being this very, let's say, conventional way of organizing with like the organizers facilitating, the workshop givers, teachers, and the students or participants. And in 2018, we wanted to break out of this model and try to make it a bit more of a flat organizational model. And so we came up with this model of the bring your own workshop. And when we did the open call for the Summer Academy that we would usually do to recruit participants, we asked people to apply with a workshop or an activity to do during that year.
I don't think it was ever the goal to become an organization, you know? The point was, okay, we want to do some interesting things with technology, but the skills from our discipline are not enough and it's more interesting to do together. I think that was the goal, so that's why the meetup started. And then you kind of become an organization, I guess, when there's funding involved, all of a sudden you have to be an entity, you know? And then there's money and there's promises to do something and then you have to kind of deliver. So I think there was also a lot of resistance at some point to professionalizing and being an organization in that way. So yeah, that's something we always kind of, we do things, we try things, we evaluate, we shift, we try something else in order to kind of stay away from becoming a hyper-professional, you know, educational institution or something like that. Because it's really also about us wanting to learn and meet exciting people to play with and to question technology with. Yeah.
So what are the main activities that you're doing right now? Like the Summer Academy and then more?
We do a Summer Academy every year. We usually do a small symposium once every year. So last year it was in the fall, was open source tool ecologies for collective organizing. That's the title, I think. It was a one-day symposium with talks and workshops. And every year we make a publication where we document what we do and also includes reflections.
Yeah, so every year we do these publications that are looking back at our activities. And we do that by like using or making and using alternative tools for publishing, making, or like design. But we also try to organize things throughout the year. People can join if they're not available in the summer. And something that I wanted to add from the earlier question was that none of us, members of Hackers and Designers, are fully working on this, like kind of a side project or something that we do together on the side of our practices. I guess like that could be also why we're not like fully professionalizing or becoming this like bigger like institution or organization. Yeah, have moments to like play and like meet with each other and meet with other people, make it like really like a sharing, like learn and try out things for ourselves, but also for others.
Thank you for the introduction. So speaking of which, about the organizational thing, I have seen in your website that Hackers and Designers organization is decentralized. It has a flattened organizational structure. And I would like to know what it means by that.
The first thing is that there's not one person who decides. I think what we always try to do is get on the same page about what it is we would like to do. And if it's also, manageable with the time that we have. So sometimes it's a bit chaotic and sometimes it takes a bit long to make decisions that way.
Because we are funded by Stimuleringsfonds most of the time and also AFK since a few years. And so thank you for making it happen.
Thank you.
That co-op was also like, a way to like see, okay, we have this chunk of money every year. How can we share the responsibility of using it and making each other like feel part of each project equally?
Because sometimes it's not super efficient. No. We're very different people, but what you enjoy about being at Hackers and Designers is that you also get to learn things. Well, yeah, when you're learning things, you're not very efficient or fast, right? Because you're learning. So this also plays into the whole idea of being flat and being open and making space for that.
Yeah, so that's how I also understood that like making a decision collectively, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes really much of patience, because giving a job to one person is just much easier in that way. So it must be also a learning process for you.
It's
all the
always.
time.
Yeah. Let's get to know more about Summer Academy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I think it's very exciting. So we're going to touch upon the 3 different things today. So Summer Academy, and then also tools and the publications that you make. And the first Summer Academy, because I was a participant here, and it was a great experience. So every year, Hackers and Designers invite creative practitioners who are interested in critically and practically engaging with technology. So the Summer Academy is run for a period of like 1 or 2 weeks, where anyone working within any discipline is invited to participate and learn together. So to learn about various technologies, also while adopting a hands-on experimental approach, they just created this space that people can gather and then work together. And then the summer academy that I attended was 2019, and then there was around, I think, 20 people in this room, and we were experimenting between participants and the workshop instructors. We didn't have really the hierarchy because we participated for everything together.
Yeah, actually, we experimented with that format the year before in 2018 for the first time, and the idea came from trying to break this kind of like teacher-student organization model. And we wanted to, so we did this open call in 2018 for everyone who wanted to join the Summer Academy to also organize an activity, which didn't necessarily have to be a workshop. It could also be like someone organized a dinner. It could also be something like a bit more of a side activity, just to feel like you are taking part in like, and bringing something to the Summer Academy.
So I feel like it gave us, like everyone, different type of knowledge and different learning points. And that there were quite interesting workshops that I remembered, for example, like Khan created Bob Ross. That was one of the workshops. And then also Volumetric Capture Lab to use volumetric capturing technology for creative use. And you see here. I believe that it was one of my inspiration that I got for this series. And then also there was a multi-form queering sports that we did an activity that it was making the sports not to be competitive. So that there was multiple different rules that we have to follow, but in the end, the aim of the sport was not to win. So I remember it was really exciting workshops. And then the year after, there was a COVID times. And then that was the first time that you made it completely online, right?
Exactly. Yeah, because of COVID, we were a bit, of course, like everyone else, like challenged in like finding ways to still organize activities. And during that year already, we had built our streaming platform website called live.hackersanddesigners.nl. And the reason why we did that one was in order to, like it was together with a show that we were being part of in Enschede at TETM. Eventually, it was also exactly when all COVID happened, and then we had this platform that was built. So that was really, actually it worked out pretty easily for you, like using this platform. Then it turned out to be like a way shorter format, 1 week. We did an open call for workshops. We had 13 workshops for the full week, which was a lot. So there was like quite a lot to coordinate and a lot happening at the same time.
And time zones.
Yeah, time zones, because people joining from all over the world. And we did an open call for participants, and because we were doing it online, had so many workshops, we ended up with over 75 participants, something like that. That is not including the people giving workshops that were also sometimes joining other workshops. So it was like almost 100 people that were part of this experience, and a lot of things happening simultaneously that also led to last year's edition of the Summer Academy, where we tried to do a hybrid format, like using some of the learnings from the year before, also being able to facilitate things online or like arrange things online with other organizations, because the format we did last year was to have different nodes of the Summer Academy, one here in Amsterdam, one in Vienna, one in Pittsburgh, and one in Harare in Zimbabwe. And in order to do so, we collaborated with different organizations, collectives, or in Zimbabwe was one person, to develop workshops together and host Summer Academy at the same time. So that was also like a new experiment in like how to use these tools to connect, but also like sharing these like workshop scripts and like being in a space but connected to other spaces. It was like a bit of a complicated and ambitious project, but we made it happen somehow.
So talking about 2021, the Summer Academy, the main concept was open tools for collective organizing. So what does it mean by this? And I know you explored open source tools for this one. And how was it? How was it organized?
Open tools, I think, was always a thing that we find out, what kind of creative possibilities does it have? What kind of limitations does it have? What kind of agency do you have to kind of turn it into something else completely? Well, I guess maybe it was also a bit inspired by the lockdown from the year before, where everyone had to all of a sudden do everything online. Everything. So it emphasized how dependent we are, right, when it comes down to it. So we worked a lot with the broadcasting software, the OBS-based tool that we built, and then things like Jitsi and Zulip instead of Slack. So we were trying out these things, and we thought actually that's an interesting area to explore as well, because organizing is one of the biggest parts of the work, right? But we don't always highlight it. It doesn't come center stage a lot. So I think we felt like it was a good opportunity to make it the topic as well, and that it can also be a creative space.
Definitely, especially because you are also trying to make the organization decentralized, like to really distribute the roles and everything. And you are working on the open source software, which is not easy. Of course, myself is also trying to really get out of the big corporation bubble. And then we have to pay for subscription, and we are really doomed if we don't have it. So like as a artist who is depending on it, it's very dangerous, right? So what are the tools that you have explored? I'm so curious.
More tools.
Yeah, well, as you were saying, OBS, obviously for broadcasting, and we tried to shift from Slack to Zulip, but we've also been using a lot Etherpad for collective note-taking, Ethercalc as a alternative for spreadsheets. And but also, I mean, since a really long time, we're already quite involved in the open source community. Like we are using GitHub a lot, like using other people's code, sharing our codes online. So all the tools that we've been trying out and building in the last years, whether for our publications or specific projects, we always documented the code and let it online for other people to use. And it's also been helping us so much for all the projects we've done. Like we've had a really long ongoing project about self-driving cars, which started from a toy hacking workshop and hacking toy cars, the ones with little remote, and using them with Arduinos and sometimes sensors, or not always with a sensor, but different types of sensors, more or less smart, also experimenting with machine learning. So it's kind of a growing project that we would never have been able to do without being part of this open source community. And I guess we're not so rigid about the open source. We also sometimes use Google documents and Google API. It's kind of a learning process. So I think we've had sometimes critics about but not everything you do is open source. But we are really trying.
Yeah, definitely. It's not only using it for yourself, but also sharing with others. So you are spreading very slowly. They did with a big corporation to us, Yeah,
exactly. Because I mean, even within education, what does it mean when everyone is using Google and Zoom? What are I mean, of course it's more convenient. It works all the time, and you can rely on them because it's been proven that it works. But ethically, is it okay?
Not to romanticize it though, because. I mean, when we ask ourselves, what does it mean to host your own thing or to own your own software? Well, it means a lot of work, and it means a lot of maintenance, and it means a lot of mistakes that you then have to fix. And what is nice about those open source tools is that if you have a crazy idea of using it for something else, there will be a way to kind of do that.
Definitely.
And we do that, and then it leads to super exciting new tools, I think.
Yes, and also the community is never-ending generous. It's really, really, really exciting because it's really like about putting things together, like different bits of codes from different people that tried out to do the same thing as you and did it in a totally different way you would have done it, but then it opens gates to like do more things, and it's really exciting. It's really like a pool for like sharing and like learning together with people you just like never met. It just like links you to people that you feel connected with, that is interested in like these specific tools or excited about like experimenting with all this and trying out and failing a lot.
I can't agree more, because I also studied graphic design back in The Hague, and I read that 80% of books in the world is made in InDesign. Wow. And if you think about it, it's really ridiculous. And I remember when I was studying, it was really, I really like making books. And then we were learning InDesign, of course. That is only one way that it is framing all the books in the world to be, like how it looks. So I really appreciate this experiments and then taking time and sharing with the community. I think it's really awesome. So now I'm thinking one of the reasons why that I didn't really like making books was maybe I thought the tools were very limited, and I didn't really realize I can make my own tools or I can explore other options. Mm-hmm. So I know that you have developed some interesting tools for publication, actually. Could you introduce us more about it?
Yes, of course. So Hackers and Designers has been making books since a while, actually, because Anja, who I mentioned before, Anja Groten, was also trained as a graphic designer, like me. So we share this interest in bookmaking and in also experimenting with different ways of making books. So before I joined Hackers and Designers, Anja had already made 2 publications to document the activities of hackers and designers using alternative tools. Scribus, which is an alternative to InDesign, open source, that actually works very well. So I invite everyone to use it instead of InDesign. But it is, of course, very tempting to use InDesign when you've learned how to use it at school, and this is what everyone uses, and So, but and also using Wiki to print, which is very well documented online. So it's like HTML to print, I think, and there's a lot of different projects that have been made like this. A lot of different like collective or like individuals that are using this. So it's very rich. You can find a lot of documentation to make your own publishing projects using these tools. And when I joined in 2017, we made this book, On and Off the Grid, which was using a tool made by Sarah Garcin, who's a French designer and educator. That was, the page is falling. It's called the PJ Machine, and the PJ Machine is a tool that was explored during the summer academy that you took part in. So maybe you can say something about it shortly.
Because Sarah also ran her workshop, she built like a web-based tool that you can run on your computer, and you had to put all the content that you wanted to put in. You had to make it ready in text files and image files in a folder. And then she made a system that allowed this layouting web browser interface to be controlled by hardware buttons. So the PJ Machine stands for Publishing Jockey, and that's literally the prototype that she made with like really big buttons and a joystick to kind of joystick game console together your publication. And in the workshop, we developed other interfaces to kind of, to design the layout. And that book was made with that. And I think the cover is even printed with a special conductive ink, so that if you have crocodile clips for electronics, you can wire up the cover of the book and hook it up to that machine, and then use the book as a controller to design more books. Which is kind of a nice
and
touch.
So Sarah's code is available online on GitHub, and we use that code that we modified for making our own script for it, and it's also available on our GitHub. And the way to wire it, as Luz was saying, with the cover or with anything that you want to make as a controller, PlayStation, for instance, or bananas that you want to touch and like make a book with, who knows? We use the Makey, which is like a small computer that you can like wire things to, and you can also make music with. But this is also something that you could do with like Raspberry Pis, for instance, to just use anything as a controller, basically.
So I understand this book as like, as a designer, you play it like VJing or DJing, like you switch things and then you change the layouts intuitively. Like, I think it's very different from traditional bookmaking.
It has something intuitive, but it's also preparing your informations in advance. So like the rules you want to apply to the layout and see how it looks, and then making them into rules for the rest of the publication.
Yeah, but then, you know, there's coded rules, but then you can open them up again as well. I mean, if your physical interface is not a mouse and a keyboard, it also becomes a bit strange, like, oh, which is which, and like you don't have this blind habit, so you don't really know what each button is going to do. And for example, with that tool, we once went to Copenhagen and did a workshop where we made physical games. So really like throwing a ball and crawling over the floor and super physical, like body type things with connective elements to make the electrical connections, of course, right? But then we made rules like, okay, we have 1 minute to play that game, and then whatever we end at, that's what it's going to be. And then we move to the next element. We have 1 minute to play the game, and then whatever, when the time is up, that's what it is, you know? So it also helps you think about how can I kind of play with who makes the decisions? Can we make the decisions together? Can we externalize it? And how do we evaluate what comes out? So,
and also just accepting that things don't look exactly how you want them, and like being trained as a graphic designer and like having this really like specific set of rules that sometimes differ whether you do like a French book or like a Dutch book or an English book or whatever. And everyone has their own like little rules of publishing or whatever. Like this leaves a lot of space for like, yeah, I mean, we can't solve this in the code, then it's just gonna be in the book. That's just how it is. The link is going all the way through all the columns. That's just how it looks. So because we can't fix it somehow. And that's a bit sometimes the thing with these open source processes is that sometimes things just don't work how you want them, and you look why you ask other people, and it's just like very blurry why things don't exactly work, and then you just have to accept that it's just how it is.
Yeah, in a way that it is definitely challenging the traditional way of bookmaking.
It is. And for instance, if I may, we made this book the year after, so I think you saw that during the Summer Academy where you were part of. This one was made with a script that Hirko, who is in the studio now, made with us. And it was like a bit newspaper generator that was a script made straight in Python, and where we would like feed all the content as markdown documents. And basically the script was just like taking all the content. Each contribution was put in the layout with a random number of columns. And we could, me and Anya, just make a whole publication by just pressing a button in the terminal, and it was making the full PDF. So that's also a thing where, like, of course, then we had to set all the rules in advance, try out a lot, and like agree that, okay, this is how it looks. But then once we say make the publication in our terminal, then we have a PDF, and we have to look through it and be like, are we happy with this? Are we happy with how it looks? Can we do something different? Then we do another one, and then it's just all different because it has this random columns and random fonts and no. So it's kind of a negotiation with the machine also, like with the randomness that we have to at some point settle and be like, okay, I guess this one has less errors than others. So we're gonna pick it, and that's what we're gonna print now.
Yeah. It's very different values that you're working on,
Maybe this one is good to talk about with that. This one, we made a tool together with one of the participants from the Summer Academy who gave a workshop on a sensor that measures your heartbeat. And then we use that input to kind of change the different properties in the design. And well, you were the voice artist, I think, for this.
So I designed this book using my voice, and Jonas Bohach, who made the publication with us and coded this interface, made a tool for us that was using an Arduino linked to a heartbeat sensor. So I was wearing the heartbeat sensor on my finger, and I was I was reading out loud each contribution. The sensor was taking my heartbeat, and through the Arduino, in processing, was reading my heartbeat. And with the mic of my computer, it was taking in my voice, and if I would speak louder or lower, it would also record the data. And the heartbeat was changing the font, and the voice volume was changing the size. So I was reading out loud, and I had to like also press my space bar all the time to see, because so that it would record the data for each word. So I was like reading, it was appearing, it was like a very funny process.
Do a little demo. Okay, so here's your content.
Yeah, how to distinguish, only one press, between aliens and natives, Juan Arturo Garcia, basically. So then it was like really like sometimes not exactly right. Process, but so it looks very funny, because then it has a lot of like I don't know,
changes in the middle of the text as well.
Yeah, changes in the text, and we also try to make these changes not too disturbing for the reading, because at the end of the day you want people to be able to read the book still. Even if it looks odd. So that was a bit the process, and it was really interesting. So I was using processing, and then when I was done with the contribution, it was exporting it as a PDF. And often I was making errors in this process of making it into a PDF. So then I had to do it all over again. Yes, because you're working with this technology that is. Yeah, like it's open source. It's like everyone is contributing to it, but therefore it's also like never fully perfect, and it's just like trying out, and sometimes it doesn't work, and you don't understand why, and then you just have to figure it out, or accept that maybe it just like looks a bit flaky or something, or find your ways around it, play around with the limitations as well.
So every year you developed some sort of tool for making publications that was developed from, inspired from a chat that you have had.
That's the last one. Yes, so that's this one from last year. So this is another tool that Heerko developed with Carl, and I think with Anja, where we moved from the chat platform Slack. We used to work a lot on Slack. We moved to an open source version called Zulip. And basically, we created a CMS system. So I think it's like CSS rules that can be kind of changed and applied by leaving comments in the Zulip chat. So people are writing stuff, and they're like, oh, hey, so you know, you're going, what time do we meet for the filming, blah, blah, blah. And you respond with a heart. And then as the sort of designer, you can say, whenever a heart is applied to a message, this message will be styled in this way. So with the font and the color and the things. So you can imagine you're writing the content in this collaborative system, and you style it by applying emojis that you then give rules to.
Yeah, we were interested in like making this tool that was like really like truly collaborative. So like during the Summer Academy, we also experimented with also being multiple people using it. So like you put content, you react on each other, what rules are overruling other rules, and like it was a really fun tool to like try out in different contexts, and it was really fun to make the book. And something we forgot to mention is that why we wanted to use this like chatting and this kind of like exchange communication channel thing was because the year before we did this super inspiring workshop during the Summer Academy with Lark and Zine from the USA, who contributed to the Summer Academy with an awesome and very well documented workshop to build our own chat rooms. And so during 3 days, we did this like alone together, sort of. And at the end of the 3 days, we all went in each other's chat rooms to try out how it works. And it was quite, at the end, quite basic because for the time, but it was a really interesting learning process, and they were also super generous in the ways they introduced all the technology around making these chat rooms, and there was different levels of accessibility, and it was super inspiring for us in many ways, also in terms of pedagogies. And it brought us to think this is how we want to make what if we would make the publication by chatting or reacting to each other's things.
So I found this publication tools as an experiment, but also a really good documentation tool. And I know you have so many information and resources that you've learned and you process online that is publicly open and accessible.
In the last years, with this idea of bringing your own workshop, and especially with the year of 2020 where everything happened online, we've developed this method of asking workshop givers to produce scripts. So step by step, like tutorials, let's say, but it can take any form. Like some people did videos, some others websites, some others like a PDF or like an email with all the different, or an Etherpad with all the different steps. And so we really like to use this format actually because it's a great way to look into different pedagogies, different ways of approaching this kind of technical learnings. And
also to give space to that, because I think we all know the GitHub explanations, tutorials, do this, do that, it works. But it doesn't show you the context or the ideas or what happens in the group or how do you get people warmed up to even start thinking about the thing.
There is from previous workshops a lot of different knowledge you can learn from following these workshops, but we also feel it's kind of interesting if you are willing to give a workshop or if you're interested in this format of a workshop, that you can also look at our different activities once they've happened and see, okay, how did this person give the workshop? What was the structure? How to even deal with doing breaks, or I know how to use Python, but how do I make it learn to other people? So we also want it to be kind of a toolkit for a lot of different practices.
So we have covered only a few examples so far, and then they have a lot of good other resources. And if you are really curious about the resources and tools and how the workshop went and all the process, you can go to hackersanddesigners.nl and you can read all these details over there. So now we are going towards the end. I already miss you. I would like to ask you about the future, and especially because you have worked with a lot of collaborators so far. And how do you find your collaborators, and what do you look for them? What do you look for in them?
Well, I think generally a sort of openness, that maybe you're super good at the academic thinking around something, that at least you show you have an interest and an openness to also explore it from a practical side, or the other way around, So that I think those people make good collaborators.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of discussion these days also about creating safe space, creating spaces for sharing and for exploring collaboratively. So that's what we want to do, that's what we're trying to do. But we're also not claiming that the way we do it is the one and only way or is the right way. A few years ago, we also for the first time wrote down a code of conduct. So that's what when we did the everything online, and also it came from the fact that suddenly we had so many new participants because it was online, and so we had to make sure that we were going to be in a space collectively that we all agree on. So setting a bit of standard for ourselves. So now we're also trying to revisit that and to always make sure that whenever we organize an event, whether it's offline or online, that people are able to read this in advance and also suggest other things. And I think something that we are trying to work on more thoroughly in the last years is accessibility. And it's really challenging because first it's challenging to burst out of our bubble, but also just simply also think of different ways, when things are happening online, who has access to it, how do we make it possible also for people with different abilities to follow, live captioning or like all this, or even when we are doing something in a space, making sure that it's accessible for different bodies and like trying to keep that in mind. Also accessible to people that have children. If things are going on for long days, like how do you make sure that people that have different time availability can also join? So we're just trying to like incorporate all this in our activities.
That's very amazing to hear. And thank you for sharing all the stories with us today. And it means a lot to us. Is there anything you would like to share in terms of the future plan?
Yeah, come to all our events. Oh, come back
Yes.
next time.
No, and also, keep an eye on our activities. As Lou said, we're gonna share soon an open call for participating to the Summer Academy, and you can join our newsletter also to be updated about our different activities. And even if you're not in the Netherlands, I think it's nice if you are interested in our community to connect, even just dropping an email, and we'll be very happy to exchange.
Thank you so much for today, Juliet and Luz, and then Hackers Designers, everyone who fostered this place for us to listen to your stories.
Thank you.
Thank you, Soyeon, and thank you everyone from the team for being here.
Thank you so much for joining today for the second episode of RGBdog Presents Volumetric Interviews with Hackers and Designers. It was super nice to have them here to listen to their stories about decentralized organization, as well as experimental workshops, publications, and so on. So we have more episodes coming that we want to show you exciting stories. So please keep it in mind that you can follow RGBdog Instagram or YouTube channel, and also Korea, this YouTube channel for our future episodes. So thank you so much for today, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye.
Do we?